that still decrease 10% or so?
Yes.
And I just want to mention, you know, from the 9-10 to the 10-11 school year, no, 10-11 to 11-12 school year, the funding was cut per student in the state by $470. And so, you know, schools were operating on spending this amount of money for teacher salary and benefits and so forth. Then all of a sudden, in that 1 year, they cut the funding $470 per student, and that's roughly $1 million that we lost in revenue, yet we were still operating with our light bill and gas prices and salaries and fringes and retirement. And we also lost 70 students that year as well. Ever since that time, districts have been on their heels trying to cut costs and make their, but a lot of people's fund equities have dried up in these last couple of years. But it was a combination of that huge cut. I mean, we're still not back 2 or 3 years later to those funding levels that we had in 10-11, if I've got my years
Right.
correctly. We're still not back there. And that year that happened, that's what's caused this alarm to go off, and that's why we're, you know, backpedaling ever since that took place. Because a $470 hit per student is a lot of money across the state, and we've been, you know, struggling ever since then. And the enrollment piece, as he noted, isn't getting any better. And we're going to talk about that later in tonight's agenda. Our decrease this year.
The only other thing I want to mention, and I'm not that I want to leave on a little bit of a sour note, so to speak, but the big issue you're also going to be having to look at is health insurance activities. We're seeing right now, because of what's happening at the federal level, it's starting to trickle down, and we're seeing it in private industry right now, where forget about all the rhetoric that's happening on the news and that. You have to kind of look at what is really happening. And in essence, there's a lot of reassigning and readjusting of health insurance plans in the private sector, probably just for 1 year, just to get by, with the idea that a year from now, when we start looking at the platinum, gold, silver, and bronze levels that are dictated by the federal government, plans will have to be conforming to that. So there's going to be some real challenges within school districts as well as whatever, is that in essence, what are your plans going to be looking like in the future? What are the costs going to be involved with it? And then the challenges are going to be is that we have a state law that addresses how much is contributory, how much you can put toward the plan, and the feds are also looking at, you know, what are you going to provide and what's going to be involved with that. So you could have a conflict between federal and state law on some of these activities. So do I have any answers? Absolutely not. I'm just pointing out to you that we're seeing this happening in the private industries right now with a lot of changes that are taking place just to get by for a year. And I don't know how much they're talking about it. I know Siobhan and then also Dan will be addressing that and making sure they stay on top of this. But that's a big issue that I see it coming down as it relates to fringe benefit activities for school districts. And it's not just you alone, it's everybody across the state. So hopefully the impact's not going to be that significant, but we just don't know.
I have one more question. On average, we're striving to get a 10% fund balance. That is our goal. What would you say, is that a reasonable goal now, or do you think, kind of with the industry average of what's happening out there in Michigan schools? What are you seeing locally? Because I know you have some districts that are near us.
Well, let me put it this way. I do have some that are lower. But what happens is, let me put it this way, if your facilities, if you have one boiler that goes, if you have anything significant that goes where it requires additional capital outlay, unique things that happen with state funding that might happen. Dan just talked about the $400. We just don't know what's going to be happening. So that's what I call my safety net.
Mm-hmm.
So you strive, it used to be 15%.
Right, I know, yep.
Now it's down, now everybody backed off to 10%. If you can keep it around that, that's great, but it's, the challenges are is how much can you really do? So, do I have an answer for that? It would be great to keep it around 10%, but
We're sitting about 6 right now. Is that what you're seeing around our area?
I've actually seen some at 2 and 3% as well too, but that is very, very slim based on
One
anything that might
catastrophe
happen.
happened,
That might happen.
yep.
Thank you.
All right, thanks.
All right.
Thank you very much.
On a good note, though, another year out of the way.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. Thanks a lot.
Okay, next on the agenda is security cameras at Oklahoma Heights High School. Ann Arnold. You're up.
I would just like to see the security cameras in our high school. We do have some. They're out there, but they're not working. Either them upgraded or have new cameras put in so that for the safety of our students. So there's so much stuff that goes on in that parking lot that you, the board, don't even know about, that us parents do. And it's very important for the safety of our students to have security cameras. 90% of the schools have security cameras in their parking lots.
Are you talking mostly in the parking lots, or?
In the parking lots,
You
yeah.
have them in the school.
No, they don't work. They don't work.
The ones inside the school.
No, I'm talking about the ones out in the parking lot, because there's so much that goes on out in the parking lot that Dan and I both checked, and they weren't working. The old ones were not working, so either they need to be upgraded, or we need to have new ones put in.
It's interesting she brought that up, because my first summer here, there were some issues over the summer with some
Mhm.
things going on in the parking lot there, and I think at the time they were working.
No, they weren't, we haven't had anything working outside since we installed the new system.
Okay, anyway, I thought they were working back then. So Tom asked Tom to look into a cost. This was 2.5 years ago now, and it was, depending on the model, if you wanted a Cadillac or a Chevy, it was between $10,000 and $12,500. That was 2.5 years ago. So we've looked into it. It's just a matter of prioritizing and how much money we have to upgrade.
Okay, can I address a question then?
Sure.
Okay, what's more important to you? Our students' safety or the pool?
We don't fund the pool.
Who funds the pool?
The pool committee of,
Because last year they were talking about shutting it down.
right, a committee of citizens funds it.
Right, it was going to be shut down except for a group stood up and took the reins to raise the funds and keep it open.
Okay, well, I'm asking for the safety of our students in the parking lot and what goes on out there, that you seriously consider about maybe installing some new ones or getting the old ones fixed.
Tom, is it a software issue?
No, the old ones they were dying 6 years ago when we put the new system in.
What I found, just with security cameras in general in my job, you gotta get a pretty decent one, otherwise you're useless.
Yes.
What new ones did you put in? You're talking about inside the school or
Yes,
outside
we
the
have
school?
17 cameras inside the school.
Okay, so when you put the new ones inside the school, that caused the ones outside of the school not to work?
No,
Is that
the
what,
ones
or am I
outside are
misunderstanding?
The ones that, the system that we have is already failing.
The new ones inside the school?
The pre-existing system.
Oh, okay.
Included the ones that are currently outside.
Okay.
That system was failing, we put in a new system, and the current administration at the time selected to put all the cameras that we purchased inside the building.
Okay, can I ask then, have you checked for grants to help? There's grants out there to help fund this. There's some grants that you can get, that you can look into to help fund, to get the security cameras for the schools.
I have not.
Has any of the board looked into this?
Not grants, no.
Could you please look into the grants and see if you could get some grants to help cover the security cameras? Because I know there is grants out there. I left my book in the car that tells you of the ones that you could look into, that I have written down. But
If you
they're,
can get that information to me, I
I-
would gladly.
and to who are you? I'm sorry.
Director of Finance, Siobhan Niles.
That
How do you
quote-
spell your name?
Dan, that quote that you had, how many cameras was that for?
It was for 4, if I recall. 4 in the parking lot, and they just paint, you know, they pan and scan. And
We quoted it two different ways. One was for 4 pan tilts, and then one was for many more stationary cameras. It's typically cheaper and better coverage to go more stationary than it is go pan tilts.
And more stationary, either way, it was around 10 grand?
It was between 10 and 12, 10 and 12.5.
To get full coverage of the area we were looking at.
What would be the
And that
area?
didn't include the back,
We
I
just
don't,
based all the forward parking lot, school,
Public-
to that,
the public
where the
area.
bus.
I don't think it included the back.
They didn't have the buses covered in there?
And this,
We looked at it,
right.
I just think it's important to have the whole area, the buses, where the buses are and where the cars are in the parking lot covered, because I'm not gonna say what's happened in there, because I mean, Dan knows himself that's not happened in the parking lot, but, it's really important that, I think it's a big issue that really needs to be looked at. And if you can get some grants, and I'll get them to, I can email them to Dan or whatever. I mean, you were supposed to, before the beginning of the school year, you can check into these grants and try to get them to help with upgrading those or getting new ones for security.
Okay, we'll look into it.
Thank you.
Next, the drug testing policy, Andy Cottle.
Yep. Last board meeting, we found out that there was no drug testing policy in our school district, correct? Okay. Dan emailed me the actual current policies that we have on the alcohol, steroids, drug abuse, alcohol and drug-free workplace for the students and the teachers. And it basically just talks about, again, on school property, at a school event, you know, stuff like that. Teachers can't be drinking, doing drugs, anything like that, or even appear to be drinking or doing drugs, which is, I like that in there. My question is there a procedure for staff or administrators if they suspect a colleague is abusing drugs or alcohol? If a staff member comes into school drunk or suspiciously high, they did it in their own house, but now they're coming into your building and teaching children. Is there a procedure in place that if, you know, what would a student, staff member, or someone do?
If we suspected that, we would get the employee down into the office area. We more than likely call another association member to come down to witness, you know, the discussion that we would have with this employee. We suspected, you know, based on speech or smell, and we would, you know, ask the employee to take a blood test to see if, you know, it was in his or her system. And then disciplinary action upon, you know, the results of that blood test.
So under suspicion, there would be a random drug test.
We
You can ask them.
we can ask them to take one, sure.
What if they refuse?
I don't know, I don't have the answer to that, I'm not sure.
Williams, do you have the answer to that?
I can't hear what.
Do you have the answer to that? You're very intelligent in the law. You should know.
I couldn't hear the question, I said.
What if they refuse the drug test?
I don't think we have any grounds, with the current policy, to do anything about that.
So then it would just
Actually,
be,
the steps that would take place, if someone smelled, let's say they smelled of alcohol, and they refused to take a blood test, the action can still be taken by the administration to remove that person from the classroom. It would be up to them if they wanted to file a grievance because of that action taken, and it would just be a piece of evidence that they refused to take the blood test.
based on the observed conditions, the district could take disciplinary action against that employee.
Does the staff know? I mean, are they schooled or somehow informed that, do they have any kind of duty to report that kind of, if it's a buddy of theirs and they came in reeking of alcohol, I mean, are they supposed to actually go tell somebody that this is a concern of theirs? Do
Sure.
they,
I mean, if
have
it's
they
something
been
that could-
aware
if
that
it's
they should be
something that
doing
could
this?
put students in harm's way or anything like, sure, yeah.
Okay. I asked a bunch of my teacher friends in different states and everything about the random drug testing, and it seems to me like the general consensus is that the union teachers do not have random drug tests, either pre-employment, during employment, but the non-union ones do. They have drug tests in place before they're employed, randomly, throughout. That's kind of the consensus I'm coming up with. My question is that I guess my request is, can we at least, at the next union negotiations, when it discusses teacher policy, can we at least throw that on the table to discuss? I don't know what the process is to get that in place, and I know it's not for a couple years yet, but that is my request, is to actually bring out input, like Scott said, there's nothing current as far as what would happen to a teacher or
I think we can discuss anything in negotiations, it's just, I think you got your answer, talking to other schools. Basically, all the teachers are MEA, and they pretty much have a standard contract. There's stuff we can and can't adjust, and obviously we
So
can
they
always bring it up.
basically tell you what to do.
Sorry.
They basically tell you what to
No,
do.
It's part of the negotiation
Negotiation process.
And what happens is the teachers meet beforehand and they discuss the list of things that they would like to discuss at the bargaining table. The board generates its list of things that they would like to see changed in the contract. And then you sit down and you talk about it. And so if that, like I've said to Candy before, if that's something that the board feels that they'd like us to bring up at the negotiating table, we would. If they don't see it as a pressing issue, then it's not something that we would go to the mat for, so to speak. Because if you get something like that in the contract, you're gonna probably give up something else. So it's a matter of what your preferences are and how important it is and how big a problem that it might be out there.
They might agree to it if you give everybody a 20% pay raise, but that's not necessarily feasible.
I think another important point here is that when we're negotiating, that's not done in the public. And so we are not, both sides are not at liberty to go out and tell you that, yes, we tried to do this, but it didn't work, or this is what we offered and they wouldn't take it, or we're not allowed to go out into the public and negotiate in public. That's against the law. So we can't really tell you if we've tried to do this before, and we can't really tell you if this is gonna be a high priority in 3 years when we negotiate again. I mean, you would see the results of the contract because it's a public contract at the end. But, it's like making laws and making sausage, you don't wanna see how they're made, and it's the same with negotiating contracts sometimes.
Mr. Egan, can you tell me what law that is that would prevent the district from saying that we want to negotiate this part?
Yeah, I can't tell you the law specifically, but it's in para, it's in the.
It's under the National Labor Relations Act.
Yeah, NLRB, and then para is,
Employee relations.
Public Employee Relations Act.
Thank you. My quick, we have, I guess, just to kind of wrap up, we have a student and we have a personnel policy right now. And this is a school policy, this isn't a union policy, this is our school. What would prevent you guys from actually putting together or adding to the current policy that we have right here? Some sort of something to go on, that if this is what's gonna happen to you, What we're really trying to do here is eliminate gray areas. We have so many gray areas in our policies, and it seems like the board just wants to wait until something bad happens. Look what happened last time when something bad happened. There's no policy to back anything up.
I hope we don't need a policy in this school to say don't molest children.
You're right.
I think that's pretty straightforward. There isn't one teacher in this school district, hopefully, that wouldn't come forward if they knew something.
You're right.
And
But we
if
don't
they-
have a
if-
policy.
And I would say if there are teachers that wouldn't come forward, if it's in a policy, that's not gonna change what they're gonna do.
You're right.
We don't need a policy for our teachers to come forward on something like that, or any school employee to come forward.
And I believe that the majority of our teachers would come forward if they knew about molestation. We have no policy regarding what they do about it or say about it, because it seems like everything we bring up, not just us, or in general, about asking about a policy change or doing something different, is always, you guys will always be able to, you guys won't, the state and the laws always can fall back on freedom of speech somehow. Freedom of something. I did drugs when I was at home. I didn't do it on your property. Who cares? I mean, there's no consequence, there's no boundaries for our teachers or our students in some areas that say you can't do this. This isn't, like you said, this is the procedure that would happen if we smelt somebody coming in of alcohol. It's not anywhere. A teacher could come back and say, you never told me that, and they would walk free, and they would come to school again like that sooner or later. I mean,
Is the policy of, for instance, a student comes in and you could smell alcohol on them, correct me if I'm wrong here, but this is my understanding, is that you would immediately get a police officer out here and they would become involved with that?
because it's illegal for students to drink.
Well, but my point is, and my question is, is that right? You would bring someone in to take care of the situation?
To Wendy and the principals, I would,
There would be
We
subject.
would question the students first to determine if further steps were necessary. And then if we had further suspicions, then we would involve law enforcement.
If you smelled alcohol on their breath, would you call in the law enforcement?
Sure.
To take care of that?
Sure.
Okay. If you smelled alcohol on a teacher's breath or an employee's breath, what would the procedure be for that?
I think as was outlined previously.
Would you call in a police officer for that?
It's not illegal.
We don't have, it's not a driving
We don't have a
offense.
policy to cover that.
We just have one for the bus drivers,
It's
right?
not a driving offense, and, you know, if there's an illegal act involved, then sure. It may involve, you know, if they decide they're leaving and they get in the car and leave, then obviously the police are gonna be called that we have smelled somebody with alcohol driving a vehicle, we should check them.
Do we have any policy that says that no alcohol shall be consumed on school properties?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or that anybody that, of that, and what does that policy enact if that happens?
Just what Mr. Good explained, I mean, there's steps to go through.
Would
It says
that,
it would be, they would be subject to disciplinary action up to and including termination of employment. It would probably start out with a verbal warning, a written warning, the whole, all the way up.
don't they have it for the bus drivers?
But that's mandatory, but I have to have a CDL.
Oh,
The transportation department's separate.
mhm. Thanks.
I guess that was my only request, is to look into it. We might not be able to change the union thing right now, but these school policies are your school policies. And they're meant to protect, not prohibit things, they're meant to protect.
Right. And, you know, I know sometimes it gets frustrating with this dance between management and labor has went on for eons, and they have developed a particular pattern that has become law in a lot of cases. You know, I had talked to another administrator that we had who had a person who was coming in and drinking in school, and you know, he claimed, I have a disease, and you went to rehabilitation. You know, you can make, and we can make all kinds of policies. The question is, are they gonna hold up under scrutiny? And that's the part you've gotta be careful of, you know, because this dance and these rules over the last 80 years have kind of been formulated. You know, it gets, I realize it can be frustrating. You know, I've been on both sides and had it frustrating, but it's kind of the dance that is formed over time, and it has legal backings and, you know, court cases and et cetera, et cetera. But we will look into it. Okay? Okay, next is the FFA National Convention. Dr. Bragg.
Two of our officers would like to address the board on the matter of the FFA National Convention and attending. I'll turn it over to them.
My name is Andrea Erbach, and this is my friend Aaron Fritz. We would like to ask the board to request permission to go to the National Convention in Louisville, Kentucky. The dates are October 30th through November 2nd. There will be 8 students attending with 4 chaperones.
This is the FFA convention that's been attended for a number of years in the past.
Yes.
And I can't remember, is it, you carpool down there, or how do you all get down there?
Yeah, we carpool, parent drivers.
And one of our 4 chaperones is a teacher, so we will have teacher supervision.
Gotcha. So have you been there before?
Yeah. Well, this is our first year in Louisville, Kentucky. Last year it was in Indianapolis. So we're going to see what this convention center is like, hopefully.
So is that the same Indianapolis that Mr. Bragg had a little trouble navigating around some of the street? We won't get into that.
Might have been the
We won't get into that part of it.
No, no, I don't think there's many one-ways.
Okay, hopefully there are.
You know, I'm just going to tell you this to help you out, because I was born and kind of raised in Kentucky. Just so you kind of fit in, they don't go Louisville.
It's Louisville.
Louisville, Kentucky.
Louisville.
And just say y'all.
Yeah, when in doubt, say y'all, and you're good to go. Okay.
Mr. Money was our translator. Whenever we would have questions, we would call him up when we were in Louisville.
The other part about it is in the past, the FFA has represented this school very well, not only in the purpose of the event, but in your actions. And assuming this board approves, we obviously require that you keep that up.
You got quite a tradition.
When
We're
we
sure
put
you can do it.
on, we are at our best behavior.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Thank you.
Okay, we're going to slide down to H, the Rachel's Challenge update, but before we get,
Let's do the principals first.
okay, the building principals are on first. You don't want to see how it turns out?
And Mrs. Rutherford are at conferences this evening.
Oh,
And so, but you got, in the good news, you got a little update on their Rachel's Challenge so far. So if the high school and Sirline could just give us a brief update on the.
All right, I'll start at the high school. Since the community presentation that we had invited 100 students to be part of the Club, the Friends of Rachel Club, and that was the first 100 kids to receive training on what accepting Rachel's Challenge was all about. And so they spent the second half of that day getting some more intense, if you will, training on that aspect. Then they met the following 2 Fridays to kind of devise a plan for moving forward. And their first plan was to have a lock-in on September 27th. And they they managed to do that. They had tremendous community support. There was representatives from the community who attended in support, and there was donations of food and beverages that it was very well sponsored that evening. There, for example, there was over 100 hamburgers donated from McDonald's. Walmart donated a bunch of foot-long subs or party subs, and Griffin Beverage donated some beverages as well. And Fago. Yes, let's be sure there. It delivered in a van, not the truck. What else? Who else donated?
Family Fair, I picked up chips, fruit, and crackers and things like that from, is it Family Fair now? It Glenn's, you know, but the old one.
Yes.
So they were very, very generous with
When they're in West Branch or a city?
in West Branch.
So tremendous community support, and one of the things they came up with was they put inspirational messages on all of the lockers throughout the school. So each student came back on Monday morning with a special message to them, and they are, let's see, they are in committees now. They have devised 6 committees. The first one is hospitality. Also, there's a kindness committee. There is a community committee, a gratitude committee, an encouragement committee, and an outreach committee. And Mr. Egan might be able to talk more about that, because Rachel's Closet is one of the activities with the outreach committee, and he was able to pick up some clothes today. The thought with Rachel's Closet is to have a clothes exchange where people can donate clothes and people in need can pick up clothes. And he,
Yeah, I was in Roscommon this afternoon. We have gotten maybe 8 or 10 clothes racks. There was a clothes exchange in Roscommon that was run through a church, and they had to close up because of they didn't have a place for it anymore. And they decided to donate their inventory to us because they wanted to take it out of their community, actually, for donation purposes and stuff. So we have all of their, I mean, they dropped off 2 van loads of clothes last week. There's a terrain that's overflowing with clothes right now in my garage, and there's a pickup in my yard with about half a dozen clothes racks on that have to be built tomorrow morning, and it will be delivered tomorrow morning. And shoes, and then there's going to be another SUV deliver a load of clothes on Thursday that we loaded to do. Tremendous amount of clothes. Now, some of them will be useful, and some of them will be donated to St. Vincent here in town if they're not student types of clothes, because they were all kinds of clothes here. But
Where's that gonna be?
that is going to be in the room next to the administration office, correct?
yes.
Old Spanish one.
Yeah. So it's a great location, and the kids are excited about it. They want to paint, they want to, there's kids already, there's a committee set up, and I'm not sure which committee it is, but one of the committees is set up. They're going to size the clothes, they're going to put the racks together, there's shoes there, there's all kinds of things. And it's going to be an exchange. So if you want to just go in and get clothes, you can. If you want to bring clothes in and trade these clothes for those clothes, you can. It's going to be available for kids that need these kinds of things. It's available to everybody, but it's just they've got some great ideas. The kids are fired up about this Rachel's Closet. I mean, I think it's one of the most exciting things that they've talked about so far, really. So,
Yeah, I know they have a plan in place in case a student, doesn't want to look like they're going in there, that, the clothes can be gotten to the students without, anyone else knowing it. So it's good.
Right, so we're continuing to move that forward. The last thing I would add here is that this past Friday, we had a homeroom activity during fourth period, and it was, again, just keeping this in front of the kids to show the entire student body what the committees are and just to encourage them to all get involved. So we're excited and we're continuing to move it forward.
Are you starting to see some changes, some results from this program?
Yes, I think so. In some behavioral things where, you know, the attitude and the kindness. I mean, that's one of the committees where kids are referencing that, you know, to be kind to each other. Anything else to add on that?
And it gives us a tool also to use as a learning, instead of like punitive consequence, it's really given us a tool to create change where change is needed with behavior in a more positive way.
So then, Mrs. Tuttle, you agree that the kid, because you've been here with the kids, this is his first year, that there has been a change in our students here?
Absolutely.
Okay. Thank you.
Mr. Egan, do you think that we need, more clothes?
Yes, eventually. But let them sort of, this is overwhelming right now, and I know that many of these are gonna go to St. Vincent just from the style and things, but after that, the kids are talking about they would like to possibly even solicit some donations to be able to purchase things when they're on sale. I mean, what a great time of the year. Mrs. Tuttle and I talked about, you know, if you could go into, you know, Eddie Bauer, Old Navy, or Rue 21, or whatever other cool stores there are, you know, and buy new clothes at a tremendous, buy shorts and short sleeve shirts and stuff right now, and then you would have them ready in the spring with tags on, they're brand new.
Yeah, you can get them
know,
for like
this isn't
$3.
just hand-me-downs, and that's what they're talking about too. If they could, because the kids are saying, oh, we could get great deals right now, and then, you know, so well, let's just see. It's just starting. I mean, the clothes racks are not even put together yet. They're in the back of a pickup. So let's see. Let them get those sorted out. And they'd like to have this up and running in a couple of weeks, actually. That's kind of their timeline. But then go from there. Then it's going to be. They're thinking. Kids are already talking about. I got jeans that are too small. Kids are saying that. You know, I have jeans that are too small too. but you know, they're saying, you know, we can bring them in and maybe find a bigger pair. You know, I mean, it's going to be a swap. So that kind of thing too.
See, the difference is though, the kids are getting taller, but you're going to grow into you're going to get into yours again someday.
Yeah. Mine are pretty much the same length as what they were 30 years ago, but they're not the other size.
At Sirline Middle School, our 4 club also has been meeting. They've met several times. They have a meeting tomorrow, and they are going to work with the high school on a canned food drive that's going on. So that is happening. We started out also with our 100 children that were trained, and we've had about 25 children that have been coming to the meetings after school. Yeah, I think transportation is one of our issues, but it's really a nice manageable group. Last week, one of the things that the 4 club did is they did the sticky notes too, and the inspirational notes that they put on all the 7th graders' lockers. So about 140 students, they had them on their lockers when they came in. So that was really neat. If you walk through our halls, you'll see lots of signs that have been made by our students to promote Rachel's Challenge. We have started the linking of the chains, and they started in the classrooms, and so pretty soon we're thinking that this is going to come out into the hall. My vision is that it would join with the elementary. That would be a really neat thing for us to do with our sister school here. Our current Student of the Month program, starting next month, is going to be the Friend of the Month. They're going to change it from Student of the Month to Friend of the Month, and it's something positive that we've done for years at our school. And They're also going, the group is also going to be walking in the Christmas parade, and they took the banner also out to homecoming too. So lots of positive things going on.
And if I can just add, Rachel's Challenge did cost the district some money, and we've been going out and getting some donations, and pleased to announce tonight that the Ogama County Child Protection Council gave us $600 a couple weeks ago. And Wes Hubers is here tonight, waiting patiently to donate $1,100 from Crime Stoppers. So, Mr. Hubers, if you step forward.
If I might steal just a minute so that I can tell you who Crime Stoppers is, so you'll know where it came from. Crime Stoppers is a small group of individuals in the community who raise funds and put up rewards for information on crime. That's, of course, after the fact. We pay up to $1,000 for information. It's kept totally anonymous. You do not need to give your name. You're not identified through any phone records or anything else. It's completely anonymous. So that being our mission, being active in community crime stopping, we looked at, and I attended the Rachel Challenge thing at the high school and was very impressed with what I saw. And we talked among our group and we said, you know, we've got our thing going, but it's after the fact. If you can prevent those crimes before they ever happen, you know, it's much, much better than working on them afterward. And so with that in mind, we took part of our fundraising money. We do some fundraising every year, and as was mentioned, we're donating $1,100 to help defray some of the costs for Rachel.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks for your patience also tonight.
It's nothing better than going through a fund report. Okay, so, okay, sale of bus number 96-1, Mr. Hart.
96-1 is, of course, a 1996 bus. It's something that we do not feel is going to pass state inspection this year. It's going to take thousands of dollars to get it ready for state inspection, and so we just as soon sell it as opposed to spend the money on it. So, asking for the board's permission to dispose of the assets. We'll do it on the publicsurplus.com as I've done in the past. Had real good luck with them, and we'll dispose of it, you know, that way on the auction site.
Do you have at this point any thoughts of selling it, what the funds would be used for after the sale?
Oh, we've got lots of thoughts, but probably not really. I mean,
Well,
I would hope to get
in
a
years past,
couple $1,000.
in years past, we've used them to buy buses, but we don't have that right now, so I mean, are you thinking of just put it back in the mechanics area, or you don't know at this point?
I would certainly like to see it put back into parts and stuff if at all possible. We've got a number of buses right now. We're doing a lot of body work and stuff on it. So.
There's a motion tonight to sell that bus.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay, I got a couple questions.
Okay.
So when I see a bus, are all our buses numbered about a year first, and then like 96-1, 96-2, we bought them in 96?
Up until the year 2000, they were numbered that way. Starting in year 2000, we started at 2001. It was we didn't number them 20-1 or that type of thing. So starting in 2000, we just started a 3-digit number.
Okay. And you said it would take $1,000 to, was that the number I heard? To put it? Thousands.
Plural.
How many thousands?
Well, we feel we'd have to put $4,000 or $5,000 into it in order to bring it up so we feel comfortable with it passing the state police inspection. And a lot of that is body and frame work, underbody work and stuff on it.
What's this going to do to our fleet? Is this going to leave us short some buses, or?
No, you know, we've made reductions through the years. I've kind of protected the, you know, the buses so we do have plenty of spares. It's kind of shortest one, but I think we'll be okay.
What, by the way, roughly how many miles on the bus that's 17 years old?
Over 200,000. Most of our fleet now is 100,000 plus. I think we only got a couple of buses under the 100,000.
What does a bus typically go to with like its engine and transmission?
I'm sorry?
How long would a typical bus last for miles?
Engine and transmission, we can keep going for many miles. I mean, you see some of these over-the-road trucks that have got millions and millions of miles on them, but it's the body. Like I said, we're doing major body work on some of our fleet right now, and this one here, we just don't feel that it's worth putting that much money into.
Would it be worth keeping just for the engine transmission in case another one goes out? Or?
So we already have some sitting on the floor. So, and it's an older one, so it wouldn't fit any of our newer models.
Obviously, we're Johnny Cash's Cadillac. Okay, thank you, Rich. Okay, next is the K-6 math curriculum with Ms. Brunner.
Turn one of those lights down. Note that I don't have textbooks for you to take a look at. The K-6 math curriculum is aligned to the Common Core state standards. As we were working on the middle school and high school curriculum last year, we did not find anything that we were satisfied with for the elementary. So we spent some time this summer reviewing some information that came from Michigan, that came from North Carolina, came from Georgia, came from New York. And we found that the materials that were available through New York were going to meet our needs the best. State of New York was one of the original race to the top states, so they were given federal funds in order to develop this curriculum. That means that it's made available electronically to any districts that want to use this. We did choose to purchase some teacher resource books at about $16 for a unit, and for each grade it may be between 5 and 7 units. But any of the materials that we need, we can take advantage of the online version of this. So we started out with this overview of the curriculum information that's right here. And this gave us the curriculum map of all of the information. So it gives them the map so that they can see through all of the grade levels what those units are going to be. I know you can't read it, but the different colors represent the different units, and then it indicates how much time. But it gives that continuum when they start in kindergarten and go all the way through 6th